welcome to story time. Today we're going to be reading my book, And Then One Day the World Coughed. Could you come a little closer, please? Now that's better. And then one day the world coughed. Words and illustrations by me, Barbara Heller. Title page. Getting comfy? Good. Dear sweet soul, there was once a time before you were born when people flew by each other. I mean, not in the sky, unless they were in an airplane. They were just always operating at a very fast speed. They always had something to look at. And they always had something in their ears. You know they even made headphones to block out all sounds? There were so many preventable accidents that happened. Airplanes sometimes were not fueled enough. Students cared more about their grades and their phones than making friends. And sometimes people really suffered in the street and no one seemed to notice. The world was so loud, yet no one seemed to be heard. And because no one took the time to slow down, the earth and all of her creatures started getting very unhappy. There was so much pollution that many animals and people lost their homes and their lives because of it. The oceans became very full of oil, and the birds and fish started to break out with strange pimples. Some who weren't lucky enough to be born in places where people had basic human rights were told horrible things like they weren't as important as others. So they suffered terrible pain and sometimes lost anything and everything they and their families worked for, including their lives. You can't create that, love that person, vote that way, learn in school, get that mortgage, play outside, talk to them, dream that big, or pray that way. You aren't allowed. You don't matter. Lucky people from places with more freedom heard about those who were suffering around the world, and sometimes they would send money to the unlucky folks through the internet. But because thinking about the unlucky people made them feel sad, many lucky people chose to busy themselves until they didn't think much about it. I just can't with another awful news story. I have too much to worry about than everyone else. I can't give to that charity. I barely have enough to pay my own bills. Kids called their parents and teachers by their first names, and when they left home for college, they hardly came back. They started doing this thing called Friendsgiving. Eventually, if they stayed in touch, kids would put their elders into homes far away from where they lived, and no one came to visit them. People feared getting older because of it. A lot of elder people died of lonely hearts. People didn't visit them even if they were very sick, nor attend their funerals. Instead, the young and healthy ones did their very best to just have fun. In fact, that was one thing everyone wished each other on the daily. Have fun! People spent a lot of time following, watching, liking, commenting on, and fighting about other people's online stories instead of creating their own real-life story. Many moments were put on film immediately and sent to others, and people lost the art of revisiting memories with friends and family. And that was hard. To go from a time when people sat around and told stories from their own perspectives of how things happened to just watching the stories on a video and having no one discuss it with them in person. A lot got lost when that happened. There was a deafening silence from the different points of view that needed to be listened to, sitting around one table at a time. Busy was also a word people loved to say, but the strange thing was they'd complain about being it. I'm so busy. I just can't go to that wedding. I'm too busy. I won't be able to make it to that funeral. People lived to work. They spent years taking courses, paying life coaches, and therapists to help them figure out what they loved to do. Once they found it, they would say the words, I love my job. I live to work. Most people spent more time at their jobs than they did at home. Kids spent more time out in school and at after-school activities than ever before. No one was ever home, yet rents and mortgages were so high that no one could afford the homes they hardly lived in. However, a lot of people felt sad a lot of the time because, like I told you once before, sadness and pain are not optional parts of life. They are necessary parts of our experience. Just like the cold rain has to come down sometimes, or when a baby cries as her teeth are coming in, these too are parts of our life. Yet people started to fear sadness because it wasn't something they wanted to deal with anymore. People did some wacky things to try to avoid any sort of difficult feelings. There was no day of rest. Even on national holidays, nothing ever closed. Businesses were always booming, and so was the earth. No one seemed to be paying attention to some key things that really mattered. And so, just like us, when our immunity is really low and we get sick, well, so did the earth. And so, one day, the earth coughed and sneezed. Achoo! She had a big fever that didn't seem to go away and found it difficult to breathe. All of the animals coughed too, and all of the grown-ups and the babies. Everyone had to wear masks for a while. And everyone stayed in their homes for a while. A long while. People wondered, how long will this go on for? And some people stayed up very, very late, worrying, tossing and turning, drinking decaf tea, praying, and eventually turning their challenging thoughts into stories like this one. A lot of people wondered, why on earth was I so busy before? The moment isn't so bad. Being bored, mad, sad, or scared is actually something I can deal with. Then one day, after some time, kids started calling their elders again. Grandparents finally heard, "Grandma, Grandpa, I want to come to see you." People started having the more difficult conversations and learned something new from each one. Many animals found new spaces to roam. Traffic didn't exist anymore on land, sea, and in the air, so the weather and lots of living creatures could breathe and grow more freely again. And business people started wondering why they didn't take off one day to rest each week. They came up with a shorter workday so they could spend more time being at home with their families. Schools and work became a thing that happened for only part of the day, so kids and parents could spend more time together living at home. This is a pretty good schedule for a happy, balanced life. I came up with it myself. People who were once so independent, living alone, decided to finally get married, adopt kids, and rescue animals. They realized that living completely alone didn't make sense anymore, and the idea of taking care of others and being a part of a community was very important. The world became beautiful in a whole new way. There was balance, democracy, peace, and rest, and everyone took better care of themselves and each other. People went slower and became careful and present around each other. They hugged each other more with intention after months and months of not being able to hug anyone at all. Because they were so sick of the screen time they were forced to use during quarantine, they always chose to meet up in person over seeing someone on a screen any day. And you know what the best part is? They got rid of those noise-canceling headphones. We're all here on this earth for good reason. We must take great care of ourselves, our planet, and each other. You can pick this up on Amazon, on Kindle, or soft cover. Go out and hug somebody. Have a great day.